All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Newrez Voices. Man, I'm fired up today because I've got as our guest Charles DiPino, who is one of the most energetic leaders we've got here at Newrez. So, Charles, thanks for being on the show today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me. The
Yeah,
green room is spectacular here, by the way.
exactly. I hope you
Phenomenal.
got all the blue M&Ms.
At Skittles, the Skittles are great. The Skittles are great for
Good.
you.
Good. Well, hey, look, there's a ton of reasons why I was excited to have you with us and share your journey. And one of them is that you're really one of kind of the long timers here at Newrez who's been through some of the iterations, and you can kind of tell some of that story. So why don't we just start with your overall mortgage journey? Like, how did you get here? How did you get into the mortgage business? And then as you are today, leading our Columbia, Maryland site for direct to consumer.
Absolutely. So just like anybody in the mortgage business, I had no idea that I wanted to be in the mortgage business. Graduated from college, got a job at a local bank here in Maryland. Was a finance company that you and I, both know very well. That did loans for people in little strip centers. And basically, after working there for a couple years, I went, I don't think I have to work at this bank in order to be successful in this mortgage industry. So, a partner and I started in 1996 a little brokerage firm called Universal Trust Mortgage Corporation. It was two of us in a little room that we rented from my uncle, for a couple $100 a month. And we started sending direct mail out to people in the state of Maryland and closing loans and grew from there. So 12 years we owned that business and grew. And we're a regional broker, up until about 2008. 2008, right before the subprime meltdown, a guy named Jerry Schiano came to my partner and I and said, "Hey, do you guys want to be part of something more significant? Instead of a 25, 30 person, regional mortgage broker, would you like to be something that we're building?" What was funny about 6 months into that is when Lehman Brothers
Yeah.
and everybody went under. So it was a really scary time, but we survived through it. We continued to grow. We then, did HARP loans and everything else on that piece of it. And we were really call center focused. It wasn't retail. It was direct mail, direct to consumer, new customer acquisition that we tried to help customers through a, really difficult time. And then in 2012, we became part of Shell Point Mortgage, which, they were a servicing business and an originator, originated through that piece of it. And then 2018 is when NRZ, or our current, parent company, Rhythm Capital, acquired us. And at that time, it was really something that actually saved the new customer acquisition call center because the volume it had been decreasing, and be part of a big servicer was, something really exciting. I remember Bruce Williams, who's still part of us today, saying
Yeah.
in the piece of it, it really being part of this servicing saved the call centers. And then from
Man,
there, 2018, we originated through, and then as we know, COVID hit, which was a scary time. We had some, some drop downs as far as that goes, and then just originated, like it was going out of style. Thousands and thousands of loans and thousands of people working. It was unbelievable. So here we are today. Coming out of that, that I looked at a chart the other day, Dave, that kind of told the story. I think it was as low as, the bar chart looked like something from Donkey Kong, where it was going up and down and up and down and up
right.
and down over, since 2024. And, to see where we are now has just been, really, really awesome.
Yeah. That is awesome, and I there's a few things that I wanna go a little deeper with you on that story. One of them is just you starting off as a broker. I mean, we obviously have a wholesale unit, and I get the opportunity to work with a lot of brokers and see that just pure entrepreneurialism, like you say, of people starting off in their uncle's apartment, renting, that kind of thing, and there's just so many great stories for that. So I'd be interested in your take. That's quite a journey of starting in a small room, renting it with your partner, and then to today being part of this publicly traded company. I mean, what do you see as the changes, and how have you had to change your leadership style to adapt to that?
I love brokers. Okay. I still look at myself as a mortgage broker. So I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love that part of getting the deal done. I love being close to our customers, as far as that's concerned, that little, mid-sized broker, whether it's a local mom and pop shop or maybe it's, 6 or 7 states or even nationwide, Dave. The funny part about it was, I used to yell through the wall to my partner, "Hey, what do you think about doing this today?" And he was like, "Okay, let's do it." Right?
Right.
A little bit different in, a company. The good part about being a piece of Newrez is that entrepreneurial spirit, they embrace that. They listen. The people above me listen to, "Hey, why don't we try this?" Or "We did this back in the day." Or even with AI and the new, technologies that are coming out, we're able to kind of advance and go, "All right, you know what? That's something that we did. Now we can do it better by putting this AI formula into it." So,
That's right.
being part of this has been really eye-opening because it has helped me grow in my piece, but the piece that we never forgot about is 3 things have to be in balance, I really feel like, to be, successful in the mortgage business. Number 1, you have to take care of your customers. They're number
Mhm.
1. It's their most important asset. It's their home. It's where they break bread every night. It's where they come home. It's where they go to soccer practice, when they come home. That's their location. You have to make sure, and it's their most important asset. It's their home, plus it's also a financial piece. It's a huge driver of wealth and, into the retirement later on in life. That's primary. That's never lost, whether you're a small mom and pop broker or, I'm running 120 people in this call center direct to consumer. Number 2, the employees have to feel fairly compensated for what they do every day. They're doing this job to feed their families too. So
Right.
they have to feel good about coming to work every day, feel good about what they're doing, not only taking care of their customers, but then taking care of their own families, is really important. And then, like, number 3 is number 3, the company has to be vibrant. Company has to be profitable. Your region has to be profitable. It's really important because in order to do those things and take care of our customers, Dave, the company has to make sure that it's doing well. And as you know,
That's right.
we're doing really great at Newrez, and that's, a really important thing. It's hard to do those other things if you feel like you're struggling financially. And our company is, top 5 in the business.
That's right. Yeah, look, I mean, like yourself, I kind of consider myself an entrepreneur within a larger company. Like I tell people, I get excited every morning to come to work because I feel like I can still make an impact. Like I can still make things happen, even though we're part of a larger company. And so, working with people like yourself and our overall team, I think it is a collection of people who have started companies, been part of smaller companies, and have that feeling that we got to make things happen. We can't just kind of wait for the corporate wheels to turn and get things done. And to me, that's what makes it a lot of fun. And you talked about team members who have to be fairly compensated. I think team members have to feel like they can get things done too. Like you want to feel like you have a purpose every day coming in, and the purpose of serving the customer, of making the experience better, of having great relationships with the people that you work with. All those things come together, I think, to make it a special place.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It still feels like it's a mom and pop, even though we've got 7,000 employees, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So, that was really, I think that's a good place to ask you as well, with your experience and the way things have evolved over time, is there anything else that stands out to you of changing from being your original broker shop to New Penn to Shell Point, all this evolution of kind of how things have changed, whether it's culturally or the things that, how we get things done. Either let me put it this way. How has it changed? How has it stayed the same?
Um, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So the key to it is the mortgage business is very volatile, right? So it's ups and downs. We talked a little bit earlier about, how just from 2008 until now, how many different cycles of ups and downs. I think that you have to learn from what you've done in the past, apply that to what you're doing now. But if you don't change, uh, you're not going to survive in this business. That the best thing about whether you're a mortgage broker or or a retail loan officer, or you work for one of our JVs, or you're in our correspondent department, you have to evolve every single day. One of my favorite sayings is hanging up on the wall outside in the office here, and you know about it, Dave.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that says, "If you don't ride the wave of change, you find yourself beneath it." And our business, even though it's stayed the same for a long time, and it's still the base foundation of, it's the home, and how much money do you make, and then what are your assets, and what are the payments, and what are the interest rates, and how does this work? Finding out what customers' goals are, trying to help them in the transaction, whether it's a purchase or a refinance. We're all doing the same things, but you have to make sure that you are touching the borrowers in the way that they wanted to be touched right now. I mean, we did direct mail advertising, forever. That's too slow. That's too slow. Even though it still does work, still people still like to open
Yeah.
up and they get their physical mail, that comes in every day. I like it. I get excited still going to the mailbox, but people want a digital experience. They want to, talk to you over the phone. They want to do all their transactions digitally. You have to evolve, and you have to be better at doing that, just like we did back in the day that you and I were talking about. You were asking me a question like when we had Rolodexes. I don't know
Yeah.
how many people listening to this where you're like, "What's a Rolodex, Charles?" I even think I have one. I might still have one sitting over here somewhere just to show people in the office. Do you know what this is? Oh yeah, it's a Rolodex. So you have to evolve into today's world with taking what you've learned in the past and moving forward with it.
That's right. And I mean, I think that's true of us personally, whether it's as leaders or loan officers or whatever our role is, but also as our company. We have to continue to kind of figure out where the market is going, and whether that's, the internet 20, 25 years ago, AI today, all those kind of things play into it. And, even as I say that and listening to you to say that, the common theme throughout though is the people. I think ultimately, all those kind of things bring us to a loan officer, but that's what you hear about, over and over again. It's the loan officer experience. I read hundreds of surveys every day, every week. And it's always that stands out, are the people who write comments about how connected they feel to a loan officer. And it's the same way with our account executives and wholesale and whatnot. I mean, people want to work with people that they like and people that make them feel confident. They can go do a lot of research on, you know, AI or through AI or on the internet, these kind of things. But like you said, it's a huge investment for people, and they want somebody to tell them it's okay. You can trust me. This is we're going to get through this together.
Name one other business that's that important to someone that they turn the key when they come home at night, and that's where they lay their head to get their
Yeah,
rest, to enjoy their friends and family and do that piece. Like, I don't know, like, yes, maybe a Morgan Stanley financial advisor or something like that would be there, but we're dealing with that's got to be connected. You have to feel that you trust the person that you're doing business with. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like I've been in this business and doing it for a long time. When you hit the pillow at night, do you feel good about what you accomplished that day, and did you take care of it? This is one that I think is really good, and I tell to my people all the time, and I have for years, is that if your mom and dad were applying for a loan here, how would you want them to be treated? How
that's
would
right.
you feel if they had a question about a loan and they couldn't get a hold of somebody, or they did that? How would you want them to feel about the process? And if you treated every customer like it was your parents' loan, how much, that's kind of how you need to look at that. So, and I think that's transcended. That's why, our scores as far as customer service is really good. And our loan originators feel about that. But like, okay, it's a personal connection, no matter what division or what part of it that you work in, whether it's servicing, whether it's, originations, it doesn't matter. You're dealing with someone's day-to-day life, and they've got to go back and do what they do. Nurses,
That's right.
doctors, police officers, all the different jobs that are out there. They've got to go do that. They're not worried about it and as invested as you and I are every day, Dave, talking about
That's right.
LTV and debt ratio, loan to value.
Lucky dogs.
Exactly. Or another one of our acronyms, for
That's
the
right.
business.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we're we're constantly evolving, and growing. And I think about, all the hundreds and hundreds of people that you've had to hire and train over the years, um, to have that kind of passion, to have that kind of empathy for the customer and for the business. So how do you, as a leader, recruit? How do you identify the right people, and then how do you develop over time to kind of have that shared sense of purpose and why every call matters, why every interaction is important?
I mean, so that's a good question too. And then I've trained hundreds and hundreds of loan officers over time, whether it's new people that just got out of school or they're changing their career path and coming into our industry, or it's licensed already experienced loan officers that are coming from another company. I've had the pleasure of dealing with all of that, right, on
Yeah.
that piece of it. And what I've found out in interviewing people is, I tell them, I said, look, three things, all right, that you have to do every single day to be successful in this business, whether you're a rookie and you've never originated a loan before, or whether you've been doing this for 20, 30 years, right? Number one, you have to be good at technology today. You have to be able to do it. You have to embrace it. You have to know what's going on. That's part of the future on it, whether it's AI or loan origination systems or CRMs. You have to learn how to navigate. You have to learn how to do that. Product knowledge is important. You have to learn the product. You have to have a base level of product knowledge, and that takes time, whether you're a new loan officer of the business or even if you're coming from somewhere else, knowing what the product suite, that you have available at whatever company that you work for. And the one thing that you just can't do that you have to do every day, you have to put in effort every day. You can't come in every day and not bring it. You talked about my excitement and my
Yeah.
emails in the morning and all that kind of stuff. And I'm up at 6 a.m. I even got teased this morning because I spelt Nick's wrong on the thing. And I got, and, you know, Charles, there's a K in Nick's. I'm like, oh God, I'm not an NBA fan. I tell my people, bring the effort every day. If you leave every day and you close that door and you feel good about what you did that day, whether it was a successful day and you helped two borrowers or you couldn't get anybody on the phone, that's fine. As long as you know when you're leaving, you put the amount of effort in, it's really, really important. And I think something that I've evolved as a leader that I'm different today than I was years ago, as a younger man, is that when I first started, if it was like I was a pee wee football coach, I would direct every single movement on the field. Hey, Charlie, go over here. Charlie, go over. You're on the right wing. Hey, go over here. And you're directing and I'm pointing. I'm doing that stuff, and I'm doing that other piece of it. As my career's gotten longer and longer, I've realized that you know what? That's not going to work if you want to grow, right? You Now I learn to coach up the next play. If somebody makes a mistake
Mhm.
or they run the wrong route or they do something on that piece of it, I go, all right, hold on, let's take a step back. Let me teach you how it works on this piece, not trying to direct it before the action happens, but later on. I know a lot of Ravens fans aren't going to be happy to hear this, but I'm more of a John Harbaugh now than I am a Sean McVay. I'm more of a general manager that's trying to teach and bring culture and bring people together than McVay on the sidelines holding his mouth or he's calling the play out to the guys on the field. So I think that's part of evolving as a leader, not knowing that you're not doing it. Maybe it worked for a small brokerage firm when you're doing that piece of it, but as you grow, you have to get people to kind of evolve with you.
That's right. Yeah, one thing you said that got me thinking as well is the product knowledge, because I agree that I feel like historically product knowledge has been so important, because it's like, the best loan officers, the best account executives typically have had this incredible photogenic memory of like every guideline and know all these things, and they can reference it, and that's been a superpower, and I think it still is. And I think we're in this age now where it's kind of like drug commercials are on TV, and I think people go to the doctor and tell them what their prescription is. It's more and more customers are going to AI, they're going on the internet, and they're coming and and we're moving towards this era where the customer is going to come and say, "I this is the kind of product I think I need," or "This is what AI told me." And I still think the product knowledge is so important for the loan officers, but it's less about maybe placing what the product is and more about helping the customer think about it, of like, well, that's true, but there's also this, and help them kind of think through it. So it's not just like the guideline, it's how do you use those things and how do you compare them and bring it all together. So that's a mouthful, but like, what are your thoughts on how the loan officer needs to evolve?
I couldn't agree more. So you need to have something that we were talking about just in our meetings last week, Dave, a battle card, right?
Yep.
On knowing where the products are. Now, AI, not only is it helping our customers, I was scared about AI. I tease you, right? I think I own the domain humans only mortgage,
Yes.
just in case, Cyber9 systems, takes over things in the future and people wanted to do that. But as I've learned more about AI, whether it's Claude or Copilot or, whatever Gronk and all this other stuff that's out there, I've realized that that tool can help enhance our loan officers, not take them over because the customers have access to it. I mean, yeah, everybody's got Chat GPT on their phone. They're diagnosing themselves, at the doctor's office before they
That's
go
right.
in. So they have access to that product knowledge. We now can have that in our systems to have the world at your fingertips. That's going to help make that loan officer, instead of it being in your brain, instead of those account executives being, oh, the best account executive is the one that knew every product and knew the code name. Oh, WSP 1000, or I know this, or okay, we have this as a non QM product and all that kind of stuff being here while they're on the phone talking to them. Instead, they can plug it right in and be like, all right, this is the best product suite for you. And then it makes even a loan officer that's been in the business for 6 or 8 months, it gives them a superpower to
Right.
be able to fit the needs of the borrower. At the end of the day, the borrower's goals are going to be what the borrower's goals are. You're trying to fit them into the best product available. And instead of having that lack of knowledge, you're going to have an assistant with a master's degree right there helping you. Because
Yep.
something that you said earlier is 100% true. People still want to deal with people. Even the babies that started with, on an iPad, slicing the fruit up,
Yeah.
with the little app or whatever that's out there, they grow up and when it comes to buying a home, they're like, do I really want to trust this computer to, to buy my home and do a self-checkout? No, they still want to talk to humans, but they want to have access to the most relevant data, the best numbers available. And I think that's where the technology is taking us in the future. I think it's going to be transformative for our business. I actually am one of the ones that kind of believe in what Bezos was saying, that it's actually going to be an enhancement for jobs in the future, not something that's going to wipe out jobs in the future. So, yeah, I think that's kind of how I feel about it, and that's changed for me because I had a lot of fear, like like, oh my God, look what we've lived through.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go through this, and in 3 years, are they going to need any of us? No, it's just going to enhance the ability of what we can do to help our customers.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree. And we've talked about for somebody who is considering being a loan officer or as a new loan officer, how do they be successful? We've talked about bringing it every day. You've got to have the energy level. We've talked about the product knowledge, talked about embracing tech. What else do you see? Like, like we said, you've hired hundreds of loan officers over the years. Is there anything else that you see consistently in successful loan officers? And if you were just starting as a loan officer, like, what should you do? Like, what are the things you'd recommend?
One of the biggest things that I talk to my people about every day that cannot go unnoticed, right, is consistency. Consistent people that are consistent every day. You may love them or hate them. I talk a lot of sports references. We were talking about soccer earlier, but now, talking about football. Tom Brady is the best because every single day he had a formula. He went to work. He did his workouts. He looked at his playbooks. He watched game film. Every single day he was consistent in his effort. You can't take a day off, on that piece of it. As far as like the work week is concerned,
Right.
as far as not taking a day off fully, that's not what I mean. But what I mean is anytime that you're doing it, you got to leave everything else behind. You have to turn your phone off. You have to sit down. You have to work and go, all right, this is what I need to build my business. Now, like we talked about, whether this is a small brokerage firm or this is a call center, recapture loan officer, or if this is a self-source originator that works for us at Newrez, every day you got to be consistent in what you're going to do every day. And that comes with some of the basics that we've done, yeah, for years, Dave. Be organized. Make sure
Yep.
that you structure your day. Know what you have to do in the morning. Know your time slots on that piece of it. And the people that are consistent every day are always those ones that are always the top leaders. They're the ones that you see in the Scotsman guides and all that kind of stuff all the time, that they have formulas. You've brought in so many people,
Yep.
to teach us and to show, and successful people that we've had at our leadership conferences and all that. And that's the one thing when I take notes, I do it, is that he does this every day. He's
Hmm.
consistent. He's excited every day. You might not feel good. You might not have had a good night's sleep. The dog might have been sick that night. You might not have been Starbucks might not have had your favorite coffee that morning. You have to leave all of that behind and go, hey, I'm dealing with somebody. It's their most important asset that they're ever going to have. I got to leave my either bad night or bad day behind and be consistent and do the same things that I did yesterday.
Yep. I think that's 100% aligned with my thinking. I would say that that consistency kind of fits in with having a process and having the repetition and the role play. And some people feel like, oh, it's I like to freewheel, or I like to be myself, and all that is important, but having a process and being consistent allows you to kind of completely focus on what the customer is saying. That's what I look at as, like, everybody's about a plan until they get punched in the face, kind of the Mike Tyson quote. And that's true in sales. Like, you want to have the same process all down so that when you're engaged with the customer, you're not thinking about what button to push next, or how you're going to, talk about this objection or whatever. You want to be able to listen to them entirely and really take it all in so that you're there for them. And then what you respond to them is what's worked in the past, and you know how to do it.
I couldn't agree more. Here's one that I used in my regional update call just last week. I thought this was great. I was listening to, I don't know if it was a book or a podcast or something, but listen to this one that I shared with all of my people. I said, a process develops character, skills, and discipline. Think of your job daily as the engine room of a big ship. Sometimes it's a little hot, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, but it's where all the stuff is happening every day. Leave everything else behind and be in it. And that
Mhm.
was Chamath
Yeah.
Palihapitiya, who's a kind of a guy who came from nothing, um, uh, venture capitalist. I think I must have
Yeah.
listened to a podcast. I'm like, wow, that really signifies kind of what we do every day. Trust the process, do it. You get uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes you're not winning. Sometimes the boiler room door is blowing out at you. Close it up, consistent with your process, and get the ship moving forward. Thought that was a
Yeah.
great one.
Yeah, it is. And actually, it makes me think of one other thing that I think is really important for loan officers and team members in general. If you're working in that steam room, you can't predict what's going to go wrong in any given day or where you need to give your attention. So you need to understand the whole engine. I think the best loan officers understand the process beginning to end. And it's not because we want them to process loans. We got great people to do that. But you should be able to foreshadow to a customer, hey, this is how it's going to happen. And if they call you, you're not thrown off by, hey, how's that portal work? No, I know exactly how it works. Here's what you need to do. And those are the kind of interactions where the customer's like, wow, this person is, the subject matter expert. I can feel good about the way this is going to go because they understand it. And so, being a great loan officer, being great at anything you do really requires kind of that depth of understanding and how things progress well beyond your own role.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. 100%. That's why I love that quote.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, um, talking about kind of that customer need and the customer experience, how do you think customers have changed over the years, or do you think they've changed in what they expect and kind of their experience, how they take in the whole process? I mean, I'll just set it up for, I remember it used to be so paper intensive, and we would send them paper, docs and all these things. And now it's just click, click, click. People go through. I don't even know if they're looking at them, but what's your take on kind of where the customer experience is and maybe where it's headed?
Um, the level of knowledge of our country, of people that are going out to do it's at their fingertips. It's at their fingertips now. It's no longer the triplicate GFE that we used to deal with, or some process knowing what does this mean? What are points? What are loan origin? Everything is out there for the customer to be educated and experience. And that's something that, that's transcended over the years necessarily because of all some of the bad things that had happened in the past, savings and loan crisis and all that kind of stuff, Dave, that we knew about. So those customers have a higher level of knowledge and education and knowing of what's going on. I think that's the number one thing that's changed is that you can have a high level of conversation with the borrower, even if they are a nurse, even if they are working on an oil rig out in the Gulf. They can have a knowledge of what you do every single day. They still want an expert. They still want a subject matter expert to help them through the process. They still want somebody to explain that to them. They just don't want to walk through it themselves because they have a level that they've learned from the internet or they've learned from AI that's walked them through it, but they still don't know, the complexity of it. Unfortunately, our business is very complex. It's not only it's national, but it goes down to, little boroughs and taxes and, transfer tax. And, how many times have, we dealt with private road agreements that, you have to get three neighbors to sign before you can get a loan closed and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. So I think that customers' understanding of that has gone up over the years. And I actually think that has made it a better experience for them that they actually know what they're doing. How many times have you heard horror stories in our business where the customer sits there, they want to buy the home and they sit at the table and they feel like, oh my God, none of this seems like what I discussed with my person, at the beginning of the process. Cause they talked to them one time, it went through the piece of it, and then they get to the table and they start having, buyer's remorse because like, I didn't understand this. That I think pretty much has gone away in this modern age. And I think that's one of the main changes that whether you're a loan officer for the long term or the short term, you have to understand our customers have a much better knowledge base of our industry and our business than they did, let's just say 5, 10, 15 years ago.
100%. So, um, shifted gears to leadership, and you talked earlier about how, as a younger leader or maybe just working in a different environment where you could more specifically direct people, hey, do this, do that. And over time you've evolved more to coaching, you could say teaching people how to fish versus giving them the fish. Is there a story or an experience in your leadership journey that you could point to that fundamentally changed how you lead? Like whether it was something that you made a big mistake on or had a great experience, like what's been like a pivotal leadership experience for you?
Um, that's an easy one. So as the company was growing, I had a partner for a long time and we were, opposites. So I kind of surrounded myself with people that were better at doing things that I wasn't good at, right? So that part of it was good. So I always felt like even though that I had a strong personality and I was very confident what I do and I thought I was the best at everything, I always listened and opened my ears. There's a man who retired from our company, God, I think it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now, named Jim Stamos. He was a
Mhm.
region manager for the company and helped start New Penn Financial, I think in 2008, which we were part of. And I really had a lot of respect for him. He was a little bit older. He'd been through it. He's a Vietnam veteran. He was one that came back and had to change his uniform when he came over, and he got into the finance industry, and he lived the ups and downs a little bit before our time, even Dave, right?
Right.
And he sat me down, one time when I was out there being that Sean McVay coach. He came into my office and he saw me directing this. I go, hey, Pat Muth, I need you to put this on to this thing. Hey, Jeff Cruz, I need you over here. David Soma, come over here right now and get this thing done. And he kind of pulled me into the office. He said, if you want to grow and you want to evolve, you're going to have to start letting these people, do some of this thing on their own and tell them what they need to do and manage your managers and not have to worry about telling their telling the manager what to do and telling the person underneath of them what to do. So that moment, and it took me a while. Like it wasn't a fast,
Right.
transition. It took me time to kind of buy into that formula. And I think over time, that moment when he pulled me in and said, hey, look, you're gonna be able to do that. Because if you're managing hundreds and hundreds of people, you're going to have to trust the people underneath of you to put in the directives and the things that you're telling them to do. And sometimes they do it and sometimes they don't. That's, that that's all part of, of that leadership role, is that if you can convince people in their hearts and minds over time that this is a better way to do it, instead of you kind of just doing it for them, I think that's one of those moments. So Jim Stamos, who,
Yeah.
kind of came in and into my office one time and he said, "Charles, come on in here," and, put his arm around me and said, "Look, you're great at what you do. In order for us to take the next step, and get this company there," because I think back then it was maybe 50 people in 2009 or something like that. He goes, "In order
Yeah.
for us to grow this, you're going to have to be a little bit better of doing this, because you're not going to be able to sit out on the floor. We're not going to make an office, a warehouse big enough for you to yell from one side to the other, telling people what to do."
That's right. Yeah, that is so awesome. I mean, I over the years, I've had the opportunity to be a part of a lot of leadership development classes, and I'm grateful for that. At the same time, pretty much everything I've ever learned or known that I could point to and say has made me a better leader is either because I made a mistake in real time, or somebody like Stamos pulled me in a room, somebody who cared enough to come in and tell me, "Hey, you need to change. You need to do this better." Um, and that's the good stuff. And I think, that's the takeaway for every leader, every person really, is to be open to feedback. I mean, I think you don't have to necessarily adopt what somebody if somebody comes in and tells you something. Look, you can accept it or you can reject it. That's up to you, but you should be open-minded, because if somebody's taken the time to give you the feedback, it's probably because they care. Um, I just think that, yeah, you just hit on something so important there. And I think for any young leader, any old leader, to
Yeah,
keep on learning, keep on taking feedback.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up a specific person, because I wanted to ask you as part of our conversation, um, who is the most impactful leader that you've ever worked with? And you can name them or not if you'd like, but just, who's the most impactful leader you've worked with, and how did they help change it?
It's hard just to name one. It's
Yeah.
hard just to name one. And Dave, you and I have known each other for a long time. We've known a lot of the people that are out there, but Jerry Schiano, who was a founder of this company, kind of had a vision of what we wanted to do. I learned a lot from him. JC Faulkner, who both you and I know, who was an initial partner in that piece of it.
Yep.
To learn from those two entrepreneurs that built businesses and sold them, and then made us part of something significant, are unbelievable. Baron Silverstein, our current president, who,
Yep.
took over, kind of, right, as kind of COVID hit, as far as that goes. Those leaders I have so much respect for, because they can deal with Wall Street and Main Street. So,
Mhm.
taking one from, the mainstream media, they know how to deal it at the top level, and all these big, board meetings and all these things that have to get done, and then go down to that level and talk to a loan officer assistant outside my office and understand what their role is and what their job is. I think some people, men and women like that in our industry, that understand that top line and all the way down to the trenches, as you and I say, is something that I just had a huge amount of respect for. And that's just three names on there. I could probably name four, five, six more that have that ability and that skill. I don't have it myself. I think it's really hard to be able to do that. Like I said, I still look at myself as a mom and pop broker that's, part of something more significant on that piece of it. But for them to be able to do that and see that future and that vision to be able to do it, and it's very hard. Aaron himself taking our company, which he says even, is still only probably in year 5 of an 8-year rebuild, and taking our servicing department and marrying that with our originations department and making us all one. That's a really tall task to be able to do. And that we're continuing to do that and getting better and better every year, and that is a big deal. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. And the styles between a Jerry and a JC, are hugely different, but that's what's made them successful and being part of this place, because they're two different personalities. Dave Hour, who was my, former partner here, same scenario. He was, the nuts and bolts of it, the behind the scenes, looking at this stuff, while I was the one, the sales leader that went out and tried to, push out those initiatives to get our people to do it. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I can't just give you one name. It's just been so many over the years. And I've been fortunate, blessed, whatever you want to say as far as that, to have these type of mentors, in my life to be able to, to get where I am today, learning from what they've done. And that includes, Dave, something you said a little earlier, making mistakes. Plenty of mistakes made, and you learn from those mistakes and you get better from them, and you're not going to do it again. And I think that's, part of the natural evolution of, of what any person does in the business. You learn in the very beginning, you make mistakes, whether it's a rookie LO or somebody that's been there, you're still learning every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited that I know all 3 of the people that you referenced there at the top, and so, you're so right that all 3 of those leaders have such different styles and approaches, but you really touched on it that I think what makes the 3 of them also special to me as well is that, first of all, like you said, they have that Wall Street, Main Street kind of knowledge that I just don't have. I mean, I know it about myself. Like they just are a different level of intellect or whatever. And so I appreciate that about them. But at the same time, they're just genuinely good people that relate to all those places in between. And if I sit down with one of them and tell them I don't understand something, they will take the time to explain it. And it's not just me, it's anybody at the company. I mean, all of them. I think the other thing that really stands out, and I highlighted this for someone earlier this week, all of them will answer an email, for example, of any team member. It doesn't matter. There is no hierarchy to them. It is truly an open door of everybody at this company is important to me. Everybody at this company is worthy of my attention. And that's what makes them all stand out to me as being special, special people. I'm glad you did that. That's really cool because they're so different, all 3 of them.
I agree. And they do. They believe that the org chart's flat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
And
that
yeah, it's just very, very powerful. And I think it sets the tone for everybody else of, what's important and the kind of company and team we want to have. So awesome. Well, look, I want to finish up the way I started talking about your energy level. And you bring it every day. Every morning when I fire up my computer, there it is, the morning email from Charles with 10 exclamation points. So, you know, tell us like how do you do it? How do you get excited every morning and run out of the tunnel, slap at the top of the building?
look, I fell into this business, and it's one of those things where I love what I do. I mean,
Yeah.
you've met my wife; she's an underwriter in the business, right? So it's just something that I've loved and I've been passionate about for a long time. I get up in the morning, I know what's that, and you see my emails. Oh, I got explanation points. I might say things wrong on there. My Jane Hughes always teases me. She's like, "Who's Tom Dyer? How do you have this and all that other kind of stuff?" It's like I really love what I do. The hard times are hard, but you know that they're always going to get better. That's part of this business. The ups and downs, it's very volatile on the way up, very volatile on the way down. But if you stay consistent and you stay excited about what you're doing and you work through it, you're always going to have opportunities to do that. So, when I get up in the morning, I follow my routine. I get my coffee, I take my dog for the walk, I come in, I'm ready to go. I get my emails fired up, early in the morning. I look at our results from the day before and I tell it as it is. If it's good, hey, it's good. If it's bad, hey, it's bad. And then we're going to leave that behind and move forward. I might even say, hey, that stinks. Hey, that wasn't very good. How can we get better on that thing today? And what I've learned over time, you can't let the little things bother you. You're going to have days where systems go down. I mean, what were we before Microsoft was down a few months ago, and half the
Yeah.
country couldn't get on the internet, and everybody's like, "Hold on a second." I'm like, "Well, wait a second, everybody. We do have these things, paper and
Yeah.
pen. We could talk to our customers as long as the phone works. It's okay. Let's breathe through it." So I'm just excited about it because I actually found an industry that I really love. I've been part of it. I've been part of our brokers and mortgage bankers association here locally for a long time and been able to get back because the business has been very good to me and I actually love it. I love the part of it that's there. I love that it's different every day. I love talking to my people. I know, when you came in, I'm talking to Tom. He's talking to me about these other type of things. There's always something to fix. There'll always be 10 things to fix in any business. In this one, it's just fun because you're fixing things to try to help customers. We're in the customer business. That's what we do. We provide for our families, like I was saying earlier. The company makes money, and we're helping customers with their most important asset. There not to be fired up about it, in
That's
the
right.
morning when you have those pictures on there of the customers with the keys to his house, with his or
Yes.
her house, and I saw one on our morning brew this morning, a young lady that bought her first home, and you could just see the joy on her face on that piece. So if you can help that person buy a house or save them some money so they can put their son or daughter through college, that's an exciting thing. And whether you're trying to strive to be successful or not in your own right, if you don't lose focus of that, you're going to be excited every day about what you do. When I walk through that sales area and I hear people talking on the phone and talking to customers about, oh, yep, I can help you do this, and you put a patio on or whatever the scenario is, I think it's a really, really good thing. So that's what juices me up in the morning.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to share with our team or the audience at large about your experience and what you've learned?
Um, you know, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over a 33-year career, in mortgages is that, you know, every single day that you wake up and you come in is a blessing that you're going to be able to help other people do what they need to do to make their lives more significant. We are the best nation in the world. We have it better than any of our ancestors before us, right? So, those pieces of it that you can come in every day and help them with the American dream is unbelievable. Like it is, we are the driving force. I mean, it's talked about on whatever media that you use every single day, Dave, whether it's social media, whether it's TV, whether it's this. The housing market is what everybody likes to talk about. Whether you're a billionaire and you live in some, McMansion out in LA, or you have a nice little house, single family in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you're doing a barbecue and a cookout and all that kind of stuff. Every single person feels good about that because it's their gathering space, it's their home, it's their sanctuary. And what I'm saying is that what's more exciting than dealing with that when you wake up every single day? And as long as you don't lose sight of that, I've never in my career ever lost sight that on the other end, when you're doing something for a customer, you're really helping them with their home and helping them, build for their future. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been successful and I'm still here. And I think I looked at it, at 12 years I owned my own company, and I think I'm going on 19 years, since I became part of this organization.
Yeah,
So, if that says anything about who we are and who we are as an organization and the longevity of being able to do it, that's a huge promotion for Newrez and, getting up every day and banging out my morning emails.
that's awesome. That's awesome, Charles. Thank you so much for joining us today and bringing the energy. Everybody out there in the audience, thank you for tuning in to New Res Voices again. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.